Psalm 100 from the Paleo-Hebrew Scriptures. Make a loud noise. Shout for joy unto Yahweh the ever-living. Go to him before his face with a ringing cry of joy. Know him intimately and completely, for he, Yahweh the ever-living, is Elohim. He has fashioned us, working by labor to produce us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the small cattle of his pasturing. Go to him, and to his gate with confession, thanksgiving, praise, into his enclosure with hymns of celebration. Cast forth praise unto him, kneel and place a gift before him. Prosper his name. For Yahweh is beautiful, kind, upright, fair and agreeable. His hesed, desire and mercy, zeal and kindness, endure unto time of long duration. For as far as the eye can see or perceive, to the edge of the horizon and beyond, and his faithfulness circles from age to age perpetually.
Shalom, everybody. My name is Noel Joshua Hadley, and I am here with Lewis for another episode of The Live Religion, a line-for-line study through this magnificent book. And how are you doing today, Lewis?
Great. It's been an amazing week. A lot of ins and lots of outses, and lots of ups and downs and things going on. But Father was involved with all of it, which makes it all worthwhile. You know, it's the good. You can take the sorrow a lot easier when you know that. It's for a purpose, and you know he's involved. Let's just say that one way or the other.
All right. Well, let's just delve right into this today. So, where are we starting today, Lewis?
Yeah, we were in the beginning. We're going to go right to the end. This is the second to last chapter in the last book, titled Prayer, and this is chapter 3. So we're just going to dive right in. It was just on my spirit today. All right, Supreme One. Illuminate the hearts of your people and let them see the way ahead. Permit them to understand the meaning of life. Make their hearts fearful for the responsibility they carry with regard to the future state of their souls. To this end, help them towards achieving a humble heart and humble ruach and a kindly heart. Grant them some glimpse of eternity while here on earth, so that they may better understand what lies before them. Bestow upon them the ability to make contact with the fount of wisdom and truth, and let them draw near the well of holiness to sip its waters. Help them to make right judgments and guide their hearts, so they hold fast to the teachings which have gone before. Make them steadfast in the light, and show them the falsity that glitters in the darkness. When they come to the end of their journey, Supreme One, grant them immortality in the region of eternal light. Incline towards them in mercy, for you can even mitigate the impress of wickedness upon their everlasting souls. Indeed, Supreme One, I have brought about much sorrow and suffering in my days. The burden of my manhood has weighed down heavily upon me. But, O Supreme Elohim, I have never robbed the widow or fatherless, or struck at the helpless and those without protection. I have not mocked the afflicted, or stood aside in fear when wickedness was being done. I have slain no man. When I served any man, I served him well. I have never deserted a friend in distress, or violated the sanctity of another man's home. Yet, Supreme One, in my life I have done much else to be condemned, and therefore cannot know my standing before you. Almighty Abba, I cannot say, as others do, that I have no doubts. For indeed I am torn with conflicting thoughts. I do not doubt your existence, for I have been granted manifestation of its reality. But I am full of doubts about my relationship with you. Then, too, there is so much I cannot understand, yet others turn to me for guidance. When I make an error affecting only myself, I do not complain about the consequences. But should I guide others into error, my heart will be torn apart. Adonai of my heart and Abba of my soul, incline towards me a little, for of myself I cannot reach you. Enlighten me so that I may lead others into the light. However I stand in your eyes, do not consider me too unworthy to plead for your people. Guide me, Supreme One. What shall I do for your people? Death and destruction I do not fear, not even everlasting nothingness. But I do fear being inadequate for my task. Supreme One, give me confidence and strength. I ask no more. If I cannot find these with you, I can find them nowhere.
It's a good prayer.
Oh, man, that was on my heart. So thank you for the skip ahead. Appreciate it. And as to the dogs, there's a cat giving birth, so that's like New Year's morning for the dogs. They enjoy that. So there's going to be barking, and I apologize ahead of time. I'll try to keep them from disturbing us.
I really like this one line in here. I'm trying to find it. He, after describing that he has not robbed the widows or fatherless or struck at the helpless, and these are of course all principles that we see in the Torah and the Tanakh, whenever and anywhere in the New Testament, whenever Yah begins to describe his character, he goes on to say, despite all these things which he has not done, when he says, I have done much else to be condemned, and therefore cannot know my standing before you. That is such a rich line, and I think that hopefully that is a line that everybody out there has asked at some point in their life, if not more than once in their life. I would imagine that if people just go through life thinking they're just good with God, like that's not a place that we want to be in. And the very fact that if there are people out there asking that question, I think that's a healthy place to be in. Thoughts, Lewis?
Yeah, the very next line, I cannot say as others do that I have no doubts, and that's who you're talking about. And again, I'm not there is something to be said for certainty. You know, I'm certain, as it says, that Yah exists. I have no doubt. There's no doubt about that. But how does he view me with my past, with my present, with the things I struggle with the things that I try to do but fail or start and stop? And he would have been more pleased had it gone through, you know. And we're coming upon, we're right in the middle of, the beginning of the year for most people. So there are things that people are doing or failing to do, or not trying, or trying way too hard as well. And maybe they're more focused on what they're doing than why they're doing it when it comes to this season. And all of these things, Yah is pleased or displeased with. So how can I say that I have any idea of my standing before him day to day, minute to minute, when, 5 minutes ago I might have been muttering under my breath something that I shouldn't have been doing, or whatever it happens to be. And at this moment, he's disappointed in me. But also, if you can scroll back up, because I want to make sure we have a balance with this. Verse 9. And I mean, this is grace, right? Incline towards them in mercy, for you can even mitigate the impress of wickedness upon their everlasting souls. So it's all a harmonious balance between those things of, am I doing what I need to do? But knowing that I'm, as it says, inclined towards me, because of myself, I cannot reach you. Like there's always that gap that is grace, that is favor, that is what he can cleanse from us. So I just wanted to make sure that I point that out too while we're talking about all these other work-based things, if you will.
Yeah, well, I think it. And of course, you said that you don't doubt his existence, and this person, this prayer said this in verse 18 as well. I do not doubt your existence. I think that it's really what it comes down to is how we perceive God. Are we creating him in our image, or are we, recognizing how far short we fall from, who he is? And that's going to greatly change our, our response of like, we're not worthy, right? Like we're not worthy to be in such great standing. Last week when we were looking at why he I put forward the question, or my thought on why Yahuwah did away with the tabernacle system. And we were seeing this in the Voice of Elohim chapters 1-3, where the things he was just sick and tired of. And this idea that people believe that they can somehow magnify and make him greater through their actions. And so, yeah, I just think that separates, gives clarification here as to what he's talking about.
Yeah, the idea that, again, that if we fail, that we are somehow diminishing him, or if we succeed with triumph and bring glory, and
yeah,
that we're somehow making him greater. That's not the case, really. Nothing. He's the uncreated, like nothing that the creation can do, really, other than like display his glory and so forth. But yeah, and then before we move on, if back up to verse 3. The way it starts, illuminate the hearts of your people, let them see the way ahead, permit them to understand the meaning of life, make their hearts fearful for the responsibility they carry with regard to the future state of their souls. Fortunately, I do see a lot of head knowledge kind of stuff in the body. And even with myself, curiosity for the sake of knowing has its place, but we really need to be worried about the future state of our souls. Where do we stand in his sight with regard to him, with regard to our fellow man? And that really is the most important thing, because that's eternity. Like all of this is fleeting, right? But that's eternity, the future state of our souls. So towards that end, help them towards achieving a humble ruach and a kindly heart. Like those two things will go a long way in putting a person in introspection of where we are, where I am, where you are in this point of time, in the creation plan, in the whole the whole order of the creation. Where do I fit in with all of that, and how does the future state of my soul play into that as well? The glories or the horrors awaiting it. So good. Humility. Always humility.
Would you like me to turn back now to the Voice of Elohim?
Yeah, I think that's a good place.
Right.
We're on chapter 3. Let me get there as well.
Let's see if I can. Okay, here we are. I think this is it right here. Let's see.
Yes, that was it.
Okay. All right. Take it away.
All right. This is again, for those joining us, this is Yah speaking. Among the things which I abhor, few are more detestable than the hypocritical offerings of the evildoer. Behold, the offerings and worship of a hypocrite are an abomination to me. Evil enters the realm beyond earth as a foul smell, and the worst one of all is the smell of hypocrisy. Moreover, those who pander to hypocrites or do not actively oppose them are also creatures of evil. So I'm going to stop right there. Hypocrite, 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 hypocrite. 4 verses, 4 times he says it. It's bad news. Again, I'll say it again. Better to be on the side of evil than right in the middle, or pretending to be on the side of good without that humble, kindly heart that we were just talking about. Going to the feasts, going to the festivals, singing along, bringing your offerings. this is no easy task that this life that we live, right? The road is full of bumps and turns and stumbling blocks and things. If he has chosen us, or if we have chosen this life, that's an argument for another day. But it carries responsibility. It's a burden. It's a burden. It's a yoke. It's a yoke that we have to that determines, again, it determines our future state. So it has a purpose. It's not just hard for no reason. Like it actually does mold us into a greater form. Um, inside currently, in the book titled Soul in here, it makes it very clear that, like, look at the face of a miser and look at the face of a benevolent man. And it kind of like mirrors or radiates the soul within. We're not to judge by appearances, but at the same time, you know, a mean person kind of looks mean and a happy person kind of looks happy. And this book says that the soul within is the reason. Like it's radiating outward, and the energy, the vibe, the face that we're putting off is indicative to some extent of what's inside.
That's interesting.
So just a brief glimpse of what's to come, I suppose. When the flesh is left behind and it's only what is formed within. Verse 5, I know too well the deceit to which men are prone. The adulterer and fornicator preach chastity for others, while the liar declares the virtues of truth. The thief preaches honesty, and the lewd-minded professes modesty. Men say one thing and mean another. Now men may deceive themselves and other men, but I am not deceived. Now I say, let men first cleanse their own souls and eradicate hypocrisy before presuming to approach me. Now, how do you feel about that verse?
Well, I was going to comment on verse 5 here, where he says, the adulterer and fornicator preach chastity for others. I went to it would have been my seventh grade year or something like that. I'd have to think back, but I went to a private school back in California. It was a Southern Baptist school. We won't give the history there. I only went there 6 months. Didn't really work out. I despise going there, but every single Wednesday was a chapel, and the pastor would get up there, and every single week, I kid you not, it was just how sex is evil. And he would get up there and he just, it's evil and it's bad and it's, women and this and I'm sitting there in puberty going like, I'm sorry, you're not convincing me. Like, because you're in puberty, you just think about, women and wanting to have a wife someday, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, dude, what are you smoking? Well, long story short, that's after that summer, I never went back to that school again. My brother went back to the school, and lo and behold, the pastor the entire time was having an affair with the secretary. And when it came out, he actually left his wife and his children and he ran off. He left the ministry and he ran off with the secretary. And so that was a very good lesson for me in hearing the kind of things that people talk about. It was almost like he was like whipping himself up there. He didn't really want to come out about it, but he was saying,
that's it.
Yeah. So basically the adulterer,
it eats away. It eats away and it needs to come out. So that's like a release mechanism. You see it a lot, not that I pay attention to politics, but you see it a lot. Like one side will criticize the other at the exact same time they're doing it secretly. So that when it comes out years from now or whatever, it's like, it's already, so it's the same kind of thing. Like they say one thing while they mean another, or they're doing another thing. And that is blatant. A lot of times it's internal and the person doesn't even realize it. That does happen as well. But
I would just say too that, for everyone out there listening, to take that example that I used and then apply it according to this passage here, that the kind of things that people talk about a lot it may not be an indicator. For example, I'll give you guys one example. I myself, I am very against abortion, very much against abortion. Now, I've never committed abortion, and I've always been opposed to it. So that's not really the best example of this. I have, however, been very open about, because I'm very much against what am I against? Feminism. I'm very much against feminism, but I have also given in that confession that my wife and I, whether we wanted to admit it or not at the time, we started out with lies of feminism. And that's something we've been navigating and trying to get out of over the last quarter of a century, right? So, but nevertheless, I say that because I think that this is, we can use this as a practical approach. If you're seeing religious individuals up there, they keep talking about something over and over and over and over again, like, sex is icky. They keep telling you basically that you're kind of like, what, maybe this person, you can't really know the heart, but you have to wonder, like, maybe this person really struggles with it. And that's why they want you to, to abstain from it, because they're unable to. So
yeah, it just along those lines, it could come from a good place. Like, that man might have been convicted how wicked he was being, but just his flesh overcame and he wasn't able to stop. So he wanted to make sure that other people didn't fall in. I'm giving it, a benefit of the doubt scenario. Like, he wanted to make sure that the congregation didn't fall into that. So he kept telling them how bad it was, knowing that internally it was super bad. Like, in that, I can't always assign blame to people that they're knowingly doing things bad. So maybe it was from a good place, but it's just, like I said before, not even knowing, like, consciously aware that that's why he was doing it, but just,
I could acknowledge giving the benefit of the doubt, but unfortunately in his case, he actually left his wife and children and ran off with the other lady. So
the flesh is the heart is wicked, right?
Yeah.
If it's not circumcised, it is a wicked thing. So yeah, I'm sure his head told him not to, but anyway. So we stopped on verse 8. I'd like your opinion on verse 8, if you want to read that one. Or...
Now I say, let men first cleanse their own souls and eradicate hypocrisy before presuming to approach me. Well, one of the ways Joshua talked about this is before bringing your sacrifice, leave your sacrifice and go off and make amends with somebody you have offended. And the idea of bringing the sacrifice is that you're approaching him, right? So, yeah, I think that is because it's really easy to go check through the boxes. And this is one of the things I've talked about the Sabbath day, is that the Sabbath day is a day we set aside to spend with Yah. And of course, as you mentioned, we're coming up on the spring feast here. Some people have already entered the new year. And so, of course, the 14th of Nisan, we're coming on Passover and then unleavened bread. And this is a season where we can go through, like, oh, look, I'm not eating any unleavened bread this week. But what does it symbolize, right? And if we have sin in our lives, we're going into it. And we now the thing is that we can all have unconscious transgressions in our lives that haven't come to light yet. And that is something that we should pray about, that he will reveal these things and he will honor those to reveal them to us. But if we know that we have sin in our lives, then we need to deal with it before we come up to Passover season, or even, I would say, prep day on Friday, right? Like, what are we preparing for? We're preparing to spend the holiest day, the seventh day, with our Father in heaven. And so we need to make sure that we're cleaning out these sin from our lives on those days too. And that's what he wants from us.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, if someone is part of a fellowship that are having a meeting, everyone's getting together and it's going to be a Passover celebration. They're going to bring in unleavened bread together and get together on the seventh day, like you said, or the eighth day, or whatever happens to be, or like any day, really. If you're not feeling clean, like if you know that you've sinned, do you go, right? Is it better to stay home and just spend the time in prayer and reflection, knowing that you're called to the assembly, like that your family's going, your friends are going? Like, it's a balance, right? Because he's saying here, cleanse yourself before you come to me. And part of coming to me is going to the brotherhood, right? So, and I'm asking, just asking. Like, I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong, but these are things that, as men and women of Yah, we need to consider these things, right? What is the greater good that's getting done? You know?
Well, I've stated this in past weeks, I believe, in this study. I can't remember if it was the first, second week, but I quoted from the Didache where it talks about this very issue, that if you actually have two people that are in conflict in a congregation, then they need to be removed until it can be dealt with. You can't have them keep coming back and bringing their issue to the group, which will then, create leaven, because we're talking about unleavened bread. They will create leaven, and you get to that point of gangrene where you lop something off, the group will get divided, it'll get kind of, and it'll just be destruction. And so there are practical approaches to this, and this is one of the things that people in charge of groups and leadership, they need to be on the lookout for. And
putting outside the camp the things that don't belong inside, getting.
And maybe a practical approach is, let's say that, there isn't really a leadership in your group and nobody's really caught on to this yet. It would be good if we know that we're going to go into a physical group on a Sabbath, that we just send out a text to somebody in the group and say, hey, you know what, we were kind of firing back and forth at each other last week. We weren't really getting along. I was, feeling such and such, fill in the emotion or agitation. And, are we good? Is there something that we need to talk about before we get together this week? I think that would be really healthy. And it would go a long ways with the other person as well, if they saw that you were trying to work on the relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's not enough to know it inside. Like we're told to confess with our mouths. Like there's something about saying it out loud. And then especially, like you said, he says, go to your brother and confess it to him. Figure it out between the two of you. So it's not only just saying it like, oh, I feel so bad. Let him know, spirit, let him know that I feel like that I'm repenting. No, you got to tell him yourself. You got to get those things out there. So verse 9, men may well cry out, why does Elohim remain mute? Why has he deserted me? Do they think their deeds are hidden, or that I cannot read the secrets of their hearts? Worship by men of iniquity is mere mockery. How rare and sincere the genuine heart. Were men indeed deserted by their Elohim, they would have none to blame but themselves. Do men think their lack of kindness and consideration for others, their insincerity and inconsistency, are truly hidden from me? I am the all-knowing one, and I see too little love of goodness in the hearts of men, and too much fear for the consequences of their deeds. Real and sincere worship is to obey my Torah and to shoulder the responsibilities of men, to steadfastly conform to my plan, and to live in neighborly harmony. So, verse 13 kind of smacked me the first couple times I read it. Too little love of goodness in the hearts of men, and too much fear for the consequences of their deeds. That's big time, right? that hit me big time.
So, I mean, how are you seeing that? I mean, I could see this in several ways. Maybe like just on a civil society level of like being afraid of getting arrested, going to jail, or are we talking much bigger picture here of going to hell? Like
all of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like, which is it that you're trying to get out of going to hell, or do you really want to, live according to heaven?
Or even, I really want to get to heaven, so I'm operating in fear. I'm only tithing because I'm super afraid that if I don't, or I'm only putting on a shiny face and making sure that I'm there every Sabbath, because if I don't, I'm going to hell. So the consequence of not being there is more important to the person than the joy and the blessing that will come from being there. Right? They're focusing on the wrong aspect, even though they're doing the right thing. So they're focused on the consequences rather than loving goodness, right? That's the he wants love of love, right? To love and to be good and to spread that kind of thing, to be the light rather than like having the light on in the house because you're afraid of the dark versus having it on because you're drawn towards it and you love it, kind of, maybe.
Yeah, I will say to this though, and I would assume that this book would agree with me on this, though I could be off. Is anybody out there who is married or has children will understand what I'm about to say here, that there are some times where you really don't feel like you're just not in the mood to love your spouse, or you just need time to yourself with your children, or so on and so forth. And there's other examples we could look at too, like, the love of learning and getting the discipline to learn. And so the thing is that while the Torah itself, and it says right there in verse 14, my Torah is it's teaching us to conform to the very character of our Father in heaven. At the end of the day, in order to be able to conform into that and become the light and become, the vision of heaven itself, we have to do things that we don't want to do. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Lewis, but that's part of building discipline. Like there's some things where, just having that
have to versus get to, right? Oh, I have to keep the Sabbath, or I get to keep the Sabbath. It's a mindset, a frame of mind. So, and a lot of times I found, like what you're talking about, we do things we don't want to do. Like, for example, giving up food that's delicious, or, a recipe I've had for years, I have to give it up. I don't want to. But then eventually you come to realize I'm better for it. And then I'm glad that I did it. And I would never do the other way. So like it starts out as something we don't want to do. But then as we continue to grow, we realize it's actually, he knew all ahead of time that that's what I wanted to do even before I did. But we have to get to that point. So it could start out that way as, oh, I have to do this. I have to go to the assembly today, yada, 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 whatever it is.
Yeah, it's like the old DC Talk song from the 90s from our youth, where, love is a verb, and it's not a feeling. It's not whether you feel of doing something or not. It's a call to action. And sometimes you're a morning person, Lewis. You like getting up early in the morning. Sometimes people just, there's days where they just don't want to get up, and you get up anyways because you have tasks, you have duties, you have responsibilities, and you do it.
Yeah, this book is very big on getting up early. Rising up early. Yeah, I mean, so is the Bible. Rising up early, like it's all part of there. Like sleeping your life away. It says those who half live are already half dead, kind of deal. If you're sleeping most of the time, what's the difference in the eternity if you're sleeping? Like live. We're here to live. Yeah, this separately, just kind of as an aside, this book is huge on getting up early. So, and practically though, I was thinking about it. The clocks are going to change in the UK in an hour, an hour back in a few weeks, actually a few days. So I have a work appointment every day. My phone goes off at 6:15 a.m. I have a meeting, which is going to quickly turn into 5:15 a.m., which that's a big hour. Yeah, but sleeping to 5 or sleeping to 6. So I was having this exact debate in my head. I'm like, do I petition to have the meeting moved an hour? And everyone, I'm sure, would be receptive to the reason, and whether we can or can't is a different discussion. But do I even bring it up? Or, and this is where I landed on it today, or do I say nothing, set the alarm clock earlier, get up at the crack before it's even cracking, like it's even brought back to whip yet, and then see what happens, right? Because I'm assuming that I'm going to have extra time that I would be sleeping. That now, what am I going to do? Just sit in the dark? No, I'm going to be productive. I'm going to work on something. I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. I don't know. No plans, but so it could be a blessing in disguise, right? I don't want to get up that early. It's going to be terrible for the first couple times until I'm used to it. But now, once I'm used to it, that time is going to be used in a productive manner. And on the weekends when I don't have to wake up at 5 something, now all of a sudden, oh, wow, prep day, looking forward to the Sabbath. It's like, oh, I get to sleep till whenever. Like it's going to make it even that much better. So taking a negative, a potential negative and framing it positively. I have to wake up earlier versus I get to wake up earlier and I have more hours to do things.
There you go.
It really is just that simple.
I
but it's hard. Hard to do.
This scenario is a little bit different than yours, but this last year when I was in, the several months I was living in Europe, my Friday night meetups are 7 o'clock Eastern time till 9 o'clock Eastern time. And I had the discussion with the group, should I move this? And I decided to keep it the same, which meant that I was up until 3 o'clock in the morning every single week. And I guess that's what I should have been. And I survived it. But people could tell I was just zonked out and tired. I was like a zombie. And I guess I should have been telling myself that this is something I get to stay up this late every single week rather than I have to stay up every week. But
right. How often in your life do you see 3 a.m.? So it's a unique experience that you got to go through.
For 6 weeks, 6 months. Yeah, 6 months. I gotta see 3 a.m. every single Friday, Saturday morning.
Right. Praise Yah. You get to say that and other people can't. Praise Yah. I'll read verse 14 again, as it's just awesome. Real and sincere worship is to obey my Torah and to shoulder the responsibilities of men, to steadfastly conform to my plan and to live in neighborly harmony. He who devotes his life to me also devotes it to his own welfare. He who serves me well likewise serves himself. This is the Torah of Torah, or this is the law of laws. And isn't that kind of the whole thing summed up, really? If you look at the book, the entire Bible, he who devotes his life to me also devotes it to his own welfare. Like, if we serve him, he's only telling us good things that are beneficial for us. It's when we disobey that bad comes into our life. And we kind of touched on it, like sickness and disease and all of these things, uncleanness. They come into us as, if you want to say that a righteous man has the shield, the armor on, and nothing can come against him that while he's operating in that way. And to some extent, when he's not, that's when the curses and all the plagues and things come upon us. So even to that extent, if we're not living within the law of laws, we're not devoting ourselves entirely to him. We're not serving him. We're not benefiting in ourselves. That's when we start to fall away and go into places. So serving him, devote your life to him, do everything for his benefit, because ultimately it helps you. But if you do it knowing that it helps you and you do it for the reason of helping yourself, now you're operating in hypocrisy. And now leaven has entered. So be very careful. It's good to acknowledge it and to know it, but for that to be the purpose why you're doing it, now it's defeating its own purpose. It's tricky. For the whole purpose of life is not the service of Elohim, but the development of the soul of man. So why this creation? Why do we even exist? The development of the soul of man. Ask yourself what my Torah teaches and what qualities it creates, and then you will know whether it is necessary. Does not restraint also lead to greater enjoyment and appreciation? No man can say that the mishpatim of the Torah really distract from the joys of life. Neither can it be said they are obstacles to the gratification of normal desires and the natural craving for pleasure. Read and examine them carefully. To what normal desire do they deny gratification? What natural impulse do they attempt to destroy? What reasonable pleasure do they prohibit? And what beneficial outlet do they seek to suppress? I have endowed the creature made in my likeness with a religious instinct. For this springs from its everlasting ruach, as fire generates heat. Therefore, to worship is not unnatural, but blind worship lacks the vitalizing element. It defeats its own end. For in true worship, man should reach out beyond himself to discover his own soul. Then, having done so, he should develop it until the soul aspires to Elohimhood itself. Therefore, dedicate all your labors and the skill of your hands unto me, and let your heart ever dwell on the borders of the spiritual. Let the life which you cherish be the Ruach life. Free yourself from all vain hopes and selfish thoughts, from all worthless encumbrances, from ungainful avarice and unbeneficial lusts, from the domination of the flesh. Life is not easy, nor is it wholly pleasant. It is not meant to be. But bear your burdens with cheerfulness and fortitude. Entrench yourself within an inner fortress of shalom. Whatever you do or give in my name, and whatsoever sufferings descend upon you, suffer them for me. Thus, you will avoid the stigma of false pride, and all given and suffered will be without any taint of self-interest. The path of Elohimliness is not an easy one to follow, for it is beset with the pitfalls of perplexity and doubt. Though the true path is lit by the guiding light of truth, not all see it alike, but the fault lies not so much in the light as in the beholder. It is this which leads to misunderstandings concerning each other's teachings, and to disputes between those who see things one way and those preferring another. Each considers his own way, his own interpretation of the light, to be the best, if not the only way. There are few, even among truly enlightened men, who are able to conceive my true nature, and these know I am even above unchangeability in manifestation. I can think of myself as some other, and forthwith that other comes into being. Then there are those among men who declare all life, all my creation, to be an illusion of the senses, a dream without sustenance. They are in error, for all that is real and all that exists was ever latent, awaiting the awakening kiss. Men cannot know reality as it actually is, but only as they can conceive it to be with their deceptive senses. That does not make it any less real. If all men were blind, the stars would still exist.
I love that last line.
Yeah, that covered a lot there. It took like 4 or 5 different turns. Where we started when we resumed was back with the Torah. So we're like verse 16, 17, 18. Like, what is the Torah, ask yourself, honestly, what does the Torah teach that is bad for you? Like, what does it deny you that you really want? That's super good. Oh, the Torah says I can't. Like, be honest. What reasonable pleasure does it prohibit? Right? And then it gets back into worship and sacrifice and all of this. So verse 23, it says, in true worship, a man should reach out beyond himself to discover his own soul. If you were to ask 9 out of 10 people, what is worship? I don't know how many would even think that it's the development of your own soul, right? It would be something external. Oh, this is worship. It's doing the lamb, or it's doing the bread, or it's being on your knees, or saying the prayer, or yes, but why? Right? Why those things? To develop your soul. It's not the thing. It's the reason behind him telling us why we're doing these things. So, yeah, just wanted to point that out. Anyway.
Well, and you were commenting on this earlier, that on the idea of serving yourself. This is not the satanic idea of serve yourself. Kind of like an example of this is when Bob Dylan came out with his Slow Train Coming album, and he delves into Christianity. And then John Lennon was so appalled by it, he came out because Bob Dylan's like, you got to serve somebody, you're either serving Jesus or Satan. And then John Lennon comes back at that with his "Serve Yourself" song, and he just gonna serve him and whatever, Yoko or whatever, which was kind of like a gag song. But this is different because this is saying that in truly what Allah Hayam, what he wants for us, what Elohim wants for us, is our own health and benefit, and he wants us to reach up and aspire to becoming a son of God, a son of Elohim, as John would tell us. And so that's the crazy thing about here. The contrast is that if we are going to serve ourselves, we are rebelling against God and we're doing it our way. But if we're serving him, then we're ultimately serving ourselves. And so everybody wins in doing that. So one of the ways that my wife and I like to tell our children, one of the ways we phrase this is love your future self, which is a line that it's a worldview that says, we are cultivating and investing in our future, investing in our spiritual future as well as our material future. But to love your future self, your best interest is to love Elohim.
Yeah, do what is written. Do everything that is written. Just do it with the knowledge that it is there to benefit you, not that God needs it or that he's demanding something of you for some unknown reason. Everything that's written is for your benefit. Everything. That's the reason that it's there, to get you to understand right from wrong by the examples of the patriarchs and the kings and the good and wicked. Why is that written there? So that we can understand what is good and what is bad. So that we can hear it read in context and say, oh, I can apply this a little bit to something in my life. And that's going to make me better. That's going to straighten the walk, like keep me on the narrow road kind of deal. But if that's not where you are right now, and you just want to look at it strictly in terms of blessings and curses, obey blessings, disobey curses. Like it's true. That's what we're saying. It's the simplest form of that. But that leads to being motivated by fear or being motivated by the reward for obedience or the consequences of disobedience. So just simply thinking of it in terms of blessings and curses, right and wrong, God said, so I do it, and I don't need to know why. Yes, but over time, you will inquire as to why. You will want to know why, and then you will realize that it's for your own benefit, that he loves you beyond your comprehension, and that everything he says and does and everything he's created is ultimately for the benefit of man. And it's our inheritance, right? It was given to us. It's our dominion. We have the authority to do all of these things that are written specifically in the New Testament, or the things that Elijah did that Yeshua said, you can do greater than those. Like, that's what's promised to us. But we walk in fear, or we walk in greed, or anticipation of greed, or, I want my mansions, I want my virgins, I can't wait for heaven. It's like, what are you doing about it now, right? Help yourself now to get there, right? Your future self. Love yourself now with the, like you said, with the eye on the future, serving him, ultimately serving yourself. But if you do it to serve yourself, then that's not going to do it. Because now ego, pride, greed, arrogancy, all of these things, I'm right. It said it in here. We can actually go there now and scroll down a little bit. You see the light, but it's not 30 and 31. The true path is lit by the guiding light of truth, but not all see it alike. Right? So this way is the only way. It's a lunar Sabbath, and that's what it is. It's a solar Sabbath. It's whatever it happens to be, whatever the argument is. That person is looking at the light. They're not looking into darkness. They're not being deceived. They're trying to serve Yah. They're trying to do it. And that's how they're interpreting the light at the moment. And they see that as the best, if not the only way to keep the Sabbath in this example. And it's just, again, I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. I'm not making a position on that particular issue. I'm just brought it up as an example. So, but the fault lies not so much in the light as in the beholder, right? So from the outside, a skeptic would say, man, you guys can't even agree on your feast days. Like the simple, your Sabbath, what's a week? Is it 7 days, 6, 8? Like you guys can't even agree on that. So why should I think that God is true? Why should I think that this Bible is anything when nobody agrees on anything? The fault lies not with the light. It lies with us, with the beholders of the light. We're misinterpreting it. We're not applying it correctly. So I just want to make sure that we get that out there. So if one of us here takes a stand, or if you believe in something wholeheartedly, it's still your interpretation of it. Because people argue over do not kill, do not murder. Like we start to split hairs over what's a kill, what's a murder, when's it justified, when am I allowed? So even the very simplest 4 words, right? Do not kill, do not murder, whatever it happens to be in your translation. It's a black and white issue, isn't it? No, not really. Because people are going to see that and interpret it through their own lens. And that leads to disagreements and misinterpretations. And now people are and then I don't think it seems like it's off the topic, verse 35, talking about the unchangeability and manifestation. It seems like that, what does that have to do with what we were just talking about, right? But it's like, that is what we're talking about. How do you see the light? If someone said, like, that could be a bold statement for someone to say that Yah can create a brand new Yah just by thinking about it, right? That's weird if you think in terms of duality and pluralism and all that stuff. If he thinks about making himself into something else, he can do that because he can do whatever he wants, and that includes that. So I happen to think in terms of one Yah, one Spirit that is the Ruach, and then there is one Messiah who is the Son of Yah. I do not think they are a pre-existent Trinity or anything like that. I think that those are 3 separate things, and they are 3 separate things. And the lived religion kind of expands on that a little bit. But if I were to look at this verse here, Yah may not want it to be that way. He may say, well, yeah, that's how it was, but I'm Yah. If I want to create another of myself to go down there, I can still be Yah out here and create a Yah down there. He's above unchangeability and manifestation. He's above everything. That's the point. We put him in a box. We try to limit him. He can do everything. So humility, kindly heart. If you see thing one, because I still see it that way. I still do not see a duality or a trinity. I see it's one Yah. But I could be wrong. Based on this verse, I have to accept the fact that if he, the scripture talks about a certain man sometimes, or, who went to Abraham? It says Yah and 2 angels, 2 messengers. You can get into the arguments of these things. And it's like, I have a certain belief. There's a certain way I see it. But that's just my interpretation of the light. And that might not be the only way. That might not even be the best way. And when we, again, it's all about maturity and understanding these things and not getting so hung up on anything that it causes division, or that now it's a stumbling block and you need to be removed from the fellowship. So it's trying to get to it before it trying to get to the sickness or to the infection before it turns into gangrene, as you mentioned.
Louis, you've been a part of a couple of the panels we've hosted here. One was the extra biblical books, and then I can't remember, what was the other one you were a part of?
Cosmology. I was on that one.
Oh, Hebrew cosmology. Okay, so I hosted about a month ago, 4 weeks ago, a panel on the Godhead, and I brought on different individuals who, one who was a Trinitarian. Everybody knows who that is, Zen Garcia, and then I brought on a very anti-Trinitarian, to the point that he, I think that he doesn't even, he's highly suspect that Yahshua isn't even, he's just like a man. He's not even like the Son of God type of thing as we think of him to be. So we very different perspectives on this. And I stated on there, though I am not a Trinitarian, I'm not actually against the idea of the Trinity. But I was trying to think of a way to sum this up, and I believe this book does. And it would say something like, well, hold on, before I say that, let me talk about the Sabbath, because you had brought that up. And so my understanding of the Sabbath is that every 7 days, we count up to 7, every 7 days, you stop and you rest. Now, on the current Gregorian calendar, that is, we know it today as Saturday. It wasn't always on Saturday, but Then you get the the lunar Sabbath crowd, and they will say that is completely incorrect. They have their moon, but even with that, they have different days, right? So we get into all these arguments about what the right Sabbath day is. I've come to the opinion, my current conclusion is not to be postmodern in the sense that it doesn't matter. I think it does matter, but you get into like Christianity and they'll argue for eighth day theology. They'll say, well, it's not really the first day of the week. It's really the eighth day. And, they have some interesting points, all this kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, it's kind of like, if you're trying the best you can to be obedient under your understanding, the eye of the beholder staring at the light, as it said, is this cultivating us and leading us to that Godhead, to be a son of Elohim. And for me, that is really where it's at. It's not just about nitpicking of, oh, you're a Trinitarian. What? You're a triple dipper Baptist. You believe in like predestination. What? Your rapture theology, whatever. And we just start nitpicking all these things. And I love having these discussions, as people know on this channel. I love looking in the mysteries, all that stuff. I get really excited by different ideas. I have had course correction on certain issues. For example, I've been very public about this. I don't even know your thoughts on this, Lewis, and you don't have to give them. But on Paul, I used to be very anti-Paul. One of the reasons I did a course reversal was in the fruit I was seeing in it, where I was seeing kind of almost like a spiritual dead end. And I could give a whole testimony of that another time. So for me, it's not always about, I say this a lot, it is not about being theologically right and wrong. I know that sounds very postmodern. I don't believe it is.
You're 100% right.
It's about conforming to the image of our Heavenly Father. And I can't state this enough. When we get to heaven, or see some people already are going to be like, you don't go to heaven, Noel. You need to understand whatever, right? You go to the blessed land, terrestrial paradise. You go to Sheol. You go to wherever you go.
Or heaven comes to you. You don't move. Heaven comes to you.
Right. All, wherever you go, it's like, it's going to be one of those things where it's like, he looks at your list and he goes like, okay, well, you tended to the widows and the fatherless and the foreigners. You did really good on these things. But, I noticed here that, you were a modalist for a little while, and that's a mark against you right there. And then, you went through that Trinity phrase, and then you were an Arian, and I can't let that one slide. And now, you weren't baptized under the right name, and you should have gone backwards and you went forwards. And so that's another mark against you. And it's just like, the thing is that we're going to enter heaven theologically incorrect about so many things. It is quite impossible for us all to agree. And it's really going to be a check of our character. And did we conform to his character? We see that with Joshua. Like, he had, for a hot minute, he was able to tell everybody what the correct calendar was. And we know that in the first century, they were on different calendars. And, like with the book of the Nazarene, some of his own disciples were on different calendars. They weren't even keeping the same feast day. And he had, for a hot minute, able to explain to him, and he wasn't really all that interested in that. And I think it actually explains his character. He wants us to wrestle through some of this stuff and not get it and disagree with each other, but also get along. So
I like to think of it in terms of a snapshot. What I believe right now, that all of them, every single belief, it's a snapshot, and they're all subject to change. Some of them are completely different than they were a year, 5 years, 10 years ago. And I hope that as I walk further and have more experiences with the Ruach and with mankind and all that, and I get a little bit wiser, that my beliefs will change again. So someone would be like, oh, Lewis, I knew him 10 years ago, man. He believes some crazy stuff. That dude's off the rocker. I'm like, I don't believe, do you know if I still believe those things? Right? Who I was then, who I am now, who I will be in the future, it's not who I am at the moment, right? It's so if we keep that in mind, and all of these people who, I'm a Trinitarian, I'm a Lutheran, is that going to save you? Like you were saying, like, is any one belief, is any one doctrine, you're going to get there, and it's like everything else you did, you were a terrible human being, but you believed the right thing in this account. I don't think so, personally.
Yeah.
But I'm open to being wrong because I haven't been there and I haven't gone through it yet. As you're saying, like, people think this about heaven and that about that. He tells us that we're not to be concerned with those things, right? That's why he gives us the word here on earth, so that we don't have to go across the sea or up into heaven or down into the pit to get it. It's here. The other things are there and they are true and they exist and they are real, but I'm not going to be held accountable for those kind of things because he's a just judge. I will be held accountable for how I deal with my brother. So if I believe one thing, if I'm a Trinitarian and another person thinks that Jesus was a guy, and just to, again, take it all the way to the extremes, are they able to converse together? Can they break bread in harmony and leave the meeting in harmony? That's what we're going to get judged on, not the belief itself. And also, are we open to reproof and to correction on the belief, whatever it is? So if I'm so steadfast that I'm a Lutheran and everything that comes from the pulpit of a Lutheran church, I believe, regardless of what the book says, I'm going to be judged on that because the book is there. Like our experiences, our reason and common sense is there. So we are judged individually. This is very important. And this is kind of, again, one of the themes of this, the lived religion here, is that I need to do my best, to the best of my understanding, to the best of my ability, with the circumstances, with the blessings that Yah has given me, with the limitations that he has placed in front of me as well. I need to do my best, as do you. So that's what we're going to get judged on. I may, again, have everything right. I may believe all the correct things. All my interpretations are right, but I turn a hungry man away from my back gate. That's what I'm judged on, not my head knowledge. What did I do with that knowledge? Did that actually, like, oh, my heart's circumcised. I'm in the new covenant. Is it? Only Yah knows. I'm asking, is it? I don't know. There's no way I could know, or anyone else for that matter. So if someone judges you, they don't know. So only Yah knows what's in your heart. Are you circumcised? I hope so. I hope I am. And I'm trying to walk in what that means. So people say the heart's desperately wicked. I said it earlier here in a different context. Now I'm saying that I follow my heart because my heart is circumcised. So it's an uncircumcised heart. An unclean heart is desperately wicked. Get rid of it. Ignore it. Don't pay it any mind. A circumcised heart is full of truth and does not want to disobey. And when it does, there's anger inside and there's uncomfortableness and jittery, and you feel it because your heart is now in a state of unharmony, I guess, or dissonance or whatever.
I'm glad
that's a circumcised heart, right? That's, again, it's not I'm a Torah keeper or I believe in Yeshua, therefore I'm good, or therefore I'm in trouble. Like I'm a Muslim practicing, I'm in trouble. Like when that person comes to that realization or whatever it happens to be. Yes, right now. Walk, keep going. Every single day, you get better. You learn more, you read more, you have more experiences. And that's what it's about. That's what the lived religion is. It's not what I believe does not dictate who I am. It's who I am dictates my beliefs, and my beliefs are shown through the actions, through my fruit, and so forth. So, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm glad you made that contrast comparison, because this is where cherry picking in scripture gets us all in trouble. Growing up as a Protestant myself, you would only focus on passages of scripture like, the heart is wicked, beyond description, right? And so we'd say, see, everyone's heart is wicked. You cannot be good. So if you see any passages of scripture which says you can be righteous, that can't be true, because over here it says the heart is wicked. But clearly, there is I loved how you said it, how, the average person, if they follow their heart, they're going to go to wickedness. But if we do have a circumcised heart, we can follow our heart and it's going to lead us to the truth. So, I have nothing more to say on that. That was really well stated.
Yeah, we hit a lot of stuff today. Only one chapter, but actually two with you. Oh yeah, and with that, reading that prayer chapter was put on my heart earlier. So me saying that, someone's like, "Uh-oh, this is following his heart. We're told not to." It's like it's all again, it's all in context and with an understanding of what's going on. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for Noel for again allowing us the platform and the ability to wing it and not really have a set plan. I think it's working out very well. So again, thank you for being just open and letting me go with what I think is right, and I'm trying to be open and going what I think that I'm being led to do. So it's all connected, obviously. So thank you.
Yeah, well, listen, we're gonna keep plan to keep doing it every single week. We'll do it again next week, next Monday. So, and we try to make this short for everybody. So, like maybe you're on your lunch break or whatever, and not too overwhelming. I've really enjoyed this. I hope this is a continual blessing in everyone's life. So, yeah, have a good week, everybody. Anything more, Lewis? You want to add? Any last thoughts?
Yeah. That's it for now. Thank you. See you all next week. Y'all willing.
All right. See you guys. Yeah, y'all willing. See you guys next week.